Good morning, guys. It's -7 here in Edinburgh today. I've got 15 minutes before I hit the gym. I'm going to have a little coffee, and I wanted to chat to you guys about the 5 mistakes you're making with your record production right now. My name's Adam Holmes. I'm a songwriter from Edinburgh in Scotland. And since 2012, I've made 10 of my own albums, 5 or 6 band albums. I've produced dozens of albums for other people. My songs have featured in Hallmark movies, Outlander on the BBC. I've made hundreds of thousands of pounds with my music. I have one of the world's biggest music and creativity Patreons. I have 1 million followers. And really, I'm just going to share 5 quick tips today. I kind of hate the word tips, but I'm just going to share 5 ways that you could really think about your record production that's going to help you make better albums. I love making albums. Making albums is the best, most fun use of time, in my humble opinion. And the biggest lesson that I'm just going to get right into is to do less. There's an amazing clip of Robert De Niro, and I think he's about 35 at the time. And someone asked him, well, you seem to be one of the best actors in the world. What is it that makes you so amazing as an actor? And he says, do nothing. If you're taking in the information that maybe something awful has happened in your life, real people in the real world don't do loads when that happens, right? They're taking it in. You let the audience come up with its own conclusions around what's happened and how the person is emotionally reacting, right? Now with record production, it's the same thing. When you are starting to play around with ideas and you're starting to create the emotional impact of the album, your instinct, which is wrong, is going to be to play a lot of stuff. It's similar in boxing, right? All of your instincts in normal life are going to be to avoid getting punched, pull away and do like this, right? And it's really hard. You have to train yourself almost you are avoiding the punches, but not to flinch and not to react, right? Now, when you're recording, it's actually really similar. You want to avoid the feeling of playing over the top of all of your feelings, because you're going to end up with a recording that sounds very unconvincing. If you go back to Neil Young or Dylan or any of the real classic sort of 70s albums, what you'll notice if you pay attention is they are very, very understated. It's about what they're not doing. So the first concept I want to give you today is that just do less. Do way less than you think. The second concept, if you want to make your recordings world class, is focus on material and focus on performance. Many of us, when we get into recording, we get obsessed with microphones and interfaces and compressors, and all that stuff's fun and interesting, and definitely there's a magic to it and you can use it to your advantage. But I was lucky enough to work with a guy called John Wood, who produced albums for John Martin, Nick Drake, Pink Floyd, all these amazing classic artists, right? And he came up in a time where that's what it was about, material and performance. That's what he said to me, material and performance. That's always what it comes down to. Work on the song, get the song good, record the song. That's lovely, thanks very much. Cheers. Record the song, get an accurate representation of the song. But at the end of the day, you can't polish a turd, as they say. And actually with AI and all these new tools, and we'll get into that in a minute, the reality is it's never been easier to get a boring idea and make it sort of sound relatively interesting with tricks and techniques or whatever. But you're always going to do better if you really believe at the core that the idea is good. You're always going to do better with that. Which leads us nicely into the third idea, which is as a recording artist, and this is where it's slightly different to being a songwriter, as a recording artist, you're an actor, right? What I mean by this is you write songs, and then it's maybe by the time you go to sing them in the studio, it's maybe a year later, it's maybe 2 years later, 3 years later, even a month later, and you're going to be feeling very different. It's a very different experience when you're not fresh in the moment and feeling the emotion of what you've been singing. So how do you, when you're actually in the moment and you need to create something convincing, how do you do that? Well, how does a method actor do it? You get back into the feeling that you had at the time when you wrote the song. One time I was coaching a client on getting a really good vocal performance, and I said to him, what were you feeling at the time that you recorded the song? And we've been struggling to get a good take, and boom, suddenly he had access. It was like turning on a tap to all of this emotion that he'd had around the time of writing the song, and that really gave us what we needed to create a really convincing recording. So that's the third thing you can do to make your recordings world class. The fourth thing, and this is honestly such a simple tip, but it'll change your life. This is assuming that you're kind of working with guitars. I knew a guy called Mark years ago when I was about 15 or 16, and he was an amazing, he loved old time, he loved country music and all that good stuff. And he said to me, 99% of your problems come down to, in making a convincing recording, come down to like using two guitars but using them in the same register. So a great example of this, of not doing this to good effect, is Gillian Welsh and Dave Rollins. Go check them out. They are a masterclass in using two guitars that never get in the way of each other, because Dave Rollins is always using a capo up to the top, and it really means that Gillian Welsh is playing this low end stuff and just strumming. He's doing this intricate picking, but he's moved the capo way up, and so it means that there's enough space between the two guitars. And I really spent a lot of time in my 20s learning how to kind of play a second guitar that stays out the way of the low end of the bass and the drums, right? Similarly, if you go and look at Neil Young Harvest, sometimes the drummer isn't even playing a hi-hat, right? Because the acoustic guitar is playing so much stuff that covers that space sonically, it covers those frequencies, excuse me. So my recommendation to you is stay out the way of the other stuff that's going on, which leads us nicely into the final concept that I want to share with you today, which came from an amazing band leader that I was lucky enough to work under. And he said to me one day, there's so much noise going on in the band, everyone's playing, it just didn't sound good, it was out of whack. So he says to me, the job you have if you're in a band is to make everyone else sound good, right? So no matter what your role is, no matter if you're the soloist, the lead singer, the bass player, the drummer, that's always your job, right? And fundamentally that job comes down to listening rather than playing over the top of everything. So if you're doing that job within a band, you're never going to struggle to have a really amazing sounding recording. Listen. You've got 2 ears, you've got one mouth. If you spend more time listening, you're going to have a better recording. Let me know what your favorite concept was today. Thanks for joining me for my morning coffee in this -9 weather, and good luck to you on making your recordings. I love it. I've been blessed to make good money doing it, and done it a long time, and be involved in a lot of really exciting things, and I just love it. It's brought me a lot of joy in my life. I wish for you the same. Good luck. If you enjoy this kind of content, you want to support the channel, come and join my club. And if you want to apply to work with me on an album, you can do that by clicking the link in the top comment. And have a beautiful day. See ya.